Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast, or is it? It's a special April Fool's edition of this podcast in which we entertain the Mount Rushmore of Pranks. Here to join me, as always, is Mitchard Renfreddy.
Howdy.
And Michael Minfield.
Richard, we got
him. I got him.
Oh, y'all been pranked. This is the Mount Rushmore of Pranks. I think this was Richard's suggestion, but it is, of course, in recognition of April Fools, which is like St. Patrick's Day. It's amateur hour for people.
Yeah, it is. Totally the worst.
Who think they're suddenly very clever or want to pull off a good-natured but totally life upsetting prank on somebody. I think it is. I love the idea of April Fools. It almost feels like one of the most pagan of the holidays that survives this Reformation that the church has done. It's just a day of misrule and chaos, but it does have people inspired to get a little bit of mischief going, and you have to kind of know how to do that right. Richard, what inspired you about this topic?
You came up with it, Jeff.
Okay. Michael, what inspired? No, I gave you guys options. I said, hey, we could do this or this or this, and somebody
so
said,
what did I
said
think about
fools.
Pranks?
I said, why Mount Rushmore Fools?
You got the Mount Rush. You got three of them right here. So
okay.
I don't know. What did I enjoy about what made me think, yeah, that's a good topic?
Yeah,
I don't know. You know, it falls into the category of things that we've done before, like hoaxes and things like that. So it's kind of adjacent to some stuff that we've done.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little bit different, slightly different topic, and I think we're going to have some. It's something we can have some fun with.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to give it our all. We're going to play all four quarters. We're going to go out there and we're going to try to chuck one up in the W column. All right. Since I thought of it, here's a prank. I'm going to go first.
Well.
Yeah. Y'all have just been pranked in college. For winter break one year, myself and another poor roommate had to stay home during winter break, meaning we spent Christmas in our cold, freezing apartment, while our much more affluent roommate, who was dating a very affluent young woman, was traveling Europe and sending packages and things back. So every day we'd get these shipments of things that he bought himself in another country. And we were just jealous as hell. So one package, we opened it up very carefully, and it was a pair of very nice linen pants. And so we were able to unwrap them from the perfumed lilac smelling tissue that was around them, and then take a nasty pair of cutoffs and put them in its place, then fold the paper back up around it and tape it up. So we pulled that hilarious prank, and he got home, and there was no amount of explaining that it was a joke that could please him or his parents, who were there when he opened it up, who had got that as a gift for him or something like that. It just felt bad for everybody. It was a prank that was no fun for anybody, that we thought we were brilliant at doing. Yeah. So yeah.
But what happened to the pants?
We just put the real pants back. We said, hey, it was a joke. And he was just pissed off that he had this nasty this fine clothier in Belgium or whatever sent him not the beautiful linen pants that he had, but these crappy cutoffs that we had been wearing painting houses all summer.
I mean, that's pretty. It's pretty weak.
Yeah.
All of it, like the reaction.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being like. I could understand finding it like not terribly like the funniest thing, but like, come on.
It's innocent. Yeah. No, he didn't get a bucket of slime on his head, or we didn't. Anyway. Okay, so Michael, you start.
Okay. Well, I'll first preface this by saying I'm not like a big fan of like April Fool's Day and pranks in general. The kind of a person being made to be made a fool of at someone's, it just doesn't hit well for me. But I I guess I like a well, kind of a calm prank, or one that really doesn't hurt anybody. So my first choice is the good old shaving cream in your hand while you're sleeping, and a tickle of the feather, tickle of the nose with a feather, because really, like, the worst thing that can happen is you just get like some shaving cream or like whipped cream in your face. Like, it's not like you're putting your hand in like a bucket of warm water and the person pisses all over themselves and all over a bed, and that's just like potentially hundreds of dollars ruined.
Yeah.
It's like, look at this. It's so innocent, and it could be done to anybody. And really, I don't know.
And you did that to you too. You did that.
I
Did
I
that
don't
to
think
yourself, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had like a major practical joke played on me or played one on somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that goes more towards my general sense of like apathy and just like, oh, don't just be nice to one. But I definitely wasn't a I don't remember it being a big thing in like college, and this feels like very much like not even college. This feels very much like a camp prank more than anything.
Yeah, I love the classic nature of this. Like, this could
Hmm.
be 100 years ago. You could do this with the brush shaving cream or something if you wanted to. This could be
Cavemen did it, but they had a
Cavemen.
rock in the
Yeah.
hand instead, and there's a lot of broken, noses, and
Yeah, absolutely.
the
Okay.
feather of a velociraptor, I would
Well, let's
assume.
get into that. I don't like to lie to people, and I don't like people to have
Says
a bad
the
day.
actor.
I think that's one reason why, as a kid, when we did prank phone calls, I would get a pit in my stomach, like, oh, I feel so horrible after doing this. So yeah, there's some component of a prank, whether it's a innocent, playful thing or not, in which you're kind of creating a scenario of untruth that people have to kind of fall into. Richard Manfredi.
All right, so this is one we talked about, I think, briefly in a first season episode, the best things about baseball other than baseball. And this is the hot foot.
Awesome.
Which, if you guys are not familiar with it, is essentially setting a person's shoe on fire.
Okay.
That's the
Classic.
joke. That's the joke.
Okay, so it is not the thing where their toes are exposed from a hobo type shoe.
No.
Okay, all right.
No,
My foot
nothing
is the
like
shoe.
that. No,
Okay.
it's actually you set either the shoelaces on fire, or you stick a bunch of matches on the guy's bottom of his shoes with gum, and then you light the matches on fire. And then he walks around not knowing what's happening for a few seconds until he realizes, oh yes, I am actually on fire.
Yeah.
And then they put it out, and then everyone laughs.
How much does this, like the banana peel that we've seen slipped on in a variety of cartoons, how much does this exist in the real world that we know of?
In baseball, pretty unfortunate, more regularly than you would expect a bunch of adults. Yes, it's a bunch of adults playing a dumb kids game.
Yes.
But still, these are a bunch of adults, and it happens more often than you would expect. There were a few well-known proponents of it. Burt Blyleven got the nickname the Frying Dutchman because he loved doing it. Apparently, the fire extinguisher in the clubhouse had a sign that said, "In case of Blyleven, pull." But no, this is something that happens fairly regular. And this is, again, like we talked about in that episode in first season, there's so much downtime in baseball.
Oh yeah.
If you think you're bored watching baseball, imagine being in the dugout, especially if you're one of the guys who's not playing that day. There's just, all you got to do is eat seeds, drink Gatorade, and set people's feet on fire.
Yeah.
That's literally what you have to do.
Yeah.
Imagine if your day started at, what time do they get to the ballpark for a 7 p.m. game?
Probably
4,
5.
if not earlier. But a part of it is they get there and they work out, and then you're warming up, and then you go through the rigmarole of, and the pomp and circumstance of the game, and then to also then not be playing. you go through
Right.
all the aspects of getting ready to play, and then you're just like, no, he's one of the pitchers that's just that's having an off day. Yet still, they probably have to work out. They probably have to do all the bits and pieces, and then it's just like, here you go, you're on fire now.
Yeah.
Also help, like I could see like places where they don't have the hot foot, like on the runway during Fashion Week in Milan or something like that. Like you see,
That'd be a hell of a prank, though.
that'd be hell of a
Set someone's
Yeah.
Louboutins
yeah.
aflame.
Or red bottom. This is a $40,000 shoe. Not anymore.
It was.
Yeah, it
Now it's
was.
a $40,000 pair of ashes.
Yeah. That does. Are you guys watching Ted Lasso at all?
No, I don't have Apple TV,
Okay.
although I'd like to watch it.
I
So give me your login.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I would say that it is channeling, even though the setting is England and an American coach in soccer, it's channeling some of that Bull Durham mischief that was so fun about that film, you know, the kind of clubhouse antics.
Yeah, where you felt like you were kind of seeing like everything kind of underneath the hood a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know, Slapshot or something where we're just kind of being part of those very testosterone driven pranks and things.
Yeah, I can't imagine like in football, American football, if you tried to hot foot, you know, Lawrence Taylor back in the 80s, how that would have turned out for you. I'm guessing not well.
In the era of cocaine and like doping and drugs, do you think like Mac McGuire would even know? Do you think he might burn off half his foot before he, or do you think?
Oh, there's a good chance Daryl Strawberry had no idea he was on fire. So we're gonna go, dude, you're literally on fire.
Yeah.
Literally, you're a flame.
Thanks, man.
I mean, the odds that we could have had a Richard Pryor situation in a Mets dugout in the mid 80s are not 0%. Let's put it that way.
Not zero. Okay. All right, Winfield, what's your second choice?
My second choice, and you fortuitously alluded to it earlier. It's Bart Simpson's prank phone calls to Mo at Moe's Tavern. This is another one of those that are just kind of seemingly innocent. It's, you know, a 10-year-old boy calling the same guy over and over. Mm-hmm. And I think the joy in it, you know, he's calling asking for alcoholic or all of her clothes off or huge ass or BO problem. And I just love that I wanted to talk about some sort of prank phone call, whether it was like the Jerky Boys, but I don't have
Jerky Boys are on my list, by the way.
Are they? Oh,
yeah,
great.
So we can kind of
awesome.
Oh, great segue. I love that. I was never like a fan of the Jerky Boys, but I was a fan of Bart Simpson. I was a fan of like this pretty innocent, you know, quasi clever turn of phrase that he would pull on Mo. And I'd love also just Mo's dopey just reaction to it. He'd always fall for it, and then he would just turn so violently angry and threaten him over the phone. And just the entire, you know, it's a pretty quick, you know, joke with a pretty simple setup or payoff. But I just always love them. And I love that within the show they could also turn it around on Bart, or they could make a joke of that joke on it too.
What's wonderfully dated about that, because it seems to kind of predate caller ID and cell phones and landlines. It seems like when you had no idea, when you had to answer because it was part of your business, and you had no idea that this was coming or who the caller was. It does seem like we have less visibility now than we do now. When The Simpsons came out, I remember pretty quickly seeing the Tube Bar tapes circulating. Have you heard of this? That there is a Jersey City drinkery called the Tube Bar, and tape swappers were passing around tapes of guys who would call and prank them with those type of Bart Simpson's things, like a Mike asking for Mike Hunt or alcoholic I guess Bart would never say my cunt, but and people very quickly connected Bart and his mischief to that tape. So people speculate that that might have been an inspiration for those Bart pranks. But Jerky Boys definitely were. Boy, I loved that the first Jerky Boys.
I did too. They have sold 8 million records over the years.
Really?
The albums. It's wild to me. And here's the thing about the Jerky Boys. I loved them too. They came out when I was like 16, 17 years old. So that's right at the age where anything that's like really edgy is going to be right up your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Because if you go back and listen to the Jerky Boys albums now, there's some problems there, boys and girls.
Yeah.
But at the time, I remember I had my giant bass amp because I played bass at the time when I was freshman year of college. And I would hook my boombox up to it and play the Jerky Boys through this giant bass amp, pointing out of my dorm room into the quad. And just people would be looking up from all around campus, like as Frank Rizzo or Saul Rosenberg is. I have all my glasses in my shoes, so I have them. All that kind of stuff was happening, and people would just be looking like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Yeah, I mean, yes, a lot of it doesn't hold up, but every once in a while you hit something that's really funny, like the guy who wants to work as some sort of like parts tool operator, and they ask him how many pieces he can do, how much he can bench. He goes, 350 pieces. That's pretty good. Pieces? I'm talking pounds, baby. I still use that line every once in a while with my wife.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very funny.
There was a little bit of the kind of Jerry Lewis kind of naivin kind of character in some of those, and definitely rife with anti-Semitism and homophobia. But I felt like they either didn't pose. I never thought the person on the other end was either innocent or not having a good time. Like I think they fell into a couple. Oh, there's Emily. You got pranked with the hot meal. Zing.
Gotcha with delicious looking food that you just got delivered to you by your lovely wife.
I would love to do that as a prank.
Dingo.
in a bar. Like some guys will send a drink over to a beautiful lady. Send her a whole meal, just a whole, like a entree, appetizer. I felt like we were listening to people who were either uptight or game. Hey, I know this is kind of a prank and I'm playing along.
Yeah.
Or they were completely pretentious and they deserved, like if it's the person on the other end at a magic theater or something,
right?
And Tarbosh, the Egyptian magician, wants to come choke their staff, and they agree to it because they think they're nurturing the career of an international prestidigitator. They deserve everything they're getting on the other side. Or the piano tuner who's being called in order to help get a pit bull out of who's stuck in a piano, extricated from the piano. Oh God, that was some funny stuff.
You mentioned Jerry Lewis, and he was one of the original phone pranksters.
Oh yeah, do you carry rackets? Like
yeah. Like,
oh.
And people, of course, wouldn't believe that it's actually Jerry Lewis. They just thought it was somebody who was pretending to be Jerry Lewis.
I love Jerry Lewis calling a record store to ask him do you have Dance of the Lazy Swain? Oh yeah, sure, we have that. Music for Niven. Oh yeah, we have that one too for sure.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. Well, okay, hey, we're halftime, and oh boy, guys, I'm looking at Flavin. I'm looking at our podcast on Apple Podcasts, and we've been really pulled a prank on us guys because nobody's rated or reviewed anything for like the last 4 years.
Oh,
I think it's like
that was me. Guys, that was me. This is my prank.
You blocked it.
I'm being intentionally keeping us down. Gotcha.
You taped over the leave a review button on the podcast machine. So I don't know how we're gonna fix this, but if you, the listener, wouldn't mind going back to undo this horrible occurrence by leaving a review and maybe a rating and subscribing, that'd be super solid. And if you'd share it with somebody else, that would be even better. So we reverse the curse that this prank has put upon us. And then, oh gosh, go out and graffiti our wall on the Mount Rushmore podcast Facebook group, and then do us a solid and you say something crazy on our Instagram and Twitter. Totally zing us, totally prank us. That'd be super solid. All right, dudes, shall we get back at it? Winfield, what's your third?
My third is the series of escalating pranks in the movie Real Genius.
Oh, awesome.
The movie, if you haven't seen it, is just one of the more delightful nerd-based 1980s comedies. I don't think I will have it in me to watch the other nerd-based 1980s comedy.
Speaking of things that don't hold up very well.
Yeah, that movie too featured like kind of a prank, but definitely one that was much more mean-spirited and awful by all parties involved. But in Real Genius, the movie really builds upon like these small pranks within like the college that they're at, where it's mostly between Chris Knight, the Val Kilmer character, and Kent, who's kind of like this super obnoxious, dorky rival of his. And it involves a car being taken apart and rebuilt inside. It involves, I'm trying to think of what, there's one that Kent does to the kind of new kid, the young kid, Mitch, where he kind of has a phone recording of Mitch calling his parents, and they play it over like the speaker in the commissary, and it really upsets him and makes him almost leave the school. And it all builds to this great like popcorn explosion via this giant space laser that's magnified and reflected back down to Earth, and popcorn exploding out of the main professor's home. But like, it's interesting to watch this movie and have it all comes down to like this huge prank in the end. And it's just very playful, even though the house gets destroyed by popcorn.
I've heard that's kind of based on reality. MIT students are kind of notorious. One, they're all just Caltech, kind of brilliant people sitting around
thinking up horrible things to do to each other.
But yeah, Kilmer was so amazing in the first decade of his career. Like, he did so many great. Top Secret, like,
we just watched. I had never seen Top Secret, and Emily and I just watched Top Secret for the first time on like Friday night, I think. And that was his first movie, and he does everything in that movie. He has great body movement. He dances. He sings, either fake sings or real sings. Can't quite tell. He's just really funny and just really, charming. That guy.
Yeah, so much promise. I was never a Top Gun fan, but he's a pretty good villain in that too, I think. So, I love that Real Genius. That is an interesting category, because I guess we're thinking of like Revenge of the Nerds. But also, I feel like in something like Risky Business, Tom Cruise was a little more of a straight-laced guy, and he had even nerdier friends. It does seem like there was definitely a nerd genre back then. Like, there was also an accidental pimp genre. I think I've discussed this before with Risky Business and Dr. Detroit and Night Shift. So yeah, well, that's a fun one. Okay, what do you got, Richard Manfredi?
All right, my third one is kind of in the vein of the Jerky Boys, but more in the world of more the literary world than anything else. This would be the Letters from a Nut series.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Have you ever heard of these, Jeff?
Yeah. Ted L. Nancy.
Ted L. Nancy,
Hmm.
otherwise known as Jerry Seinfeld's co-writer and good friend. I'm totally blanking on his name right now. Barry Martyr.
Yeah. There's a Comedians in Cars with him, I think.
Is there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys listeners have not read this yet or have read any of these stories, basically it's this Barry Martyr has come up with this character, Ted L. Nancy, who is just a nut job. And he writes letters to corporations all over the world with harebrained ideas, things that he needs. For example, he writes I think it's Marriott, some sort of big hotel chain, saying that he needs room for 700 of his hamsters because he is going to be performing a new play called Hamsterdam. And he needs assistance with his hamsters.
Mhm.
And invariably he gets back either he gets back a form letter or he gets back some schmo in the customer service department who got stuck having to answer the crackpot letters, but giving a very well, thank you for your letter. We appreciate you thinking of Marriott. However, we do not believe that we can accommodate your 800 hamsters at this time. It first started off, Barry Martyr tells a story that he was eating Fritos, and on the side of the bag, it said something like, "Got a problem? Write to us here at Fritos." And he thought to himself, who would write to Fritos?
Yeah.
A nut, that's who. And that's the whole idea came from. I personally partook of a little bit of this in high school. I would call the customer service hotline numbers on various snack food items that we would get for like break and lunch and like sodas and chips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The one I remember is I called up the Cheetos hotline. It's right after Flamin' Hot Cheetos had come out. And I started complaining, wanting to know what made the Cheetos flaming hot, because I was having some sort of allergic reaction to it. It was too hot for me.
Yeah.
And progressively got more like, okay, this is bad. Which is funny, except the poor lady on the other end is probably thinking this guy is legitimately having like anaphylactic shock and is like dying.
Yeah.
So maybe not as funny as I thought it was. So that's where the amateur in me versus a professional nut job like Barry Martyr / Ted L. Nancy is able to do his job a little bit more efficiently than me.
Have either of you gentlemen chosen anything like the National Lampoon or any other publication?
No.
For yours? Oh, okay.
Me either.
One thing I think Barry Martyr actually expanded upon in this era of email and corporate transparency, very much so. The guy really, those books are really funny. But there was if you're a fan of Don Novello, Dr.
The Laszlo letters.
Yeah. So a few decades, maybe 3 decades earlier, Don started doing that same thing and writing letters to presidents and politicians and culture figures and definitely companies, and suggesting things like to capitalize on writing McDonald's to capitalize on the success of Little Big Man, saying they should have the Little Big Mac, and that if they do this, he would like to have 10 cents per burger that they sell. And of course, like you said, part of it is just the pain of knowing that this corporation has this person whose job it is to, in a very straight face, reply to all these idiotic letters. But then that seemed to originate from Novello and the work of others in the iteration of the National Lampoon, in which they were very like the Onion, kind of almost, I don't know how you do it. What do you call it? They were parodying the publications without so much as a wink. So if they did their fake version of the New York Times or the fake version of Red Book magazine, they were able to write in the style of that publication and not send it up so completely that you didn't feel like you were actually reading an actual publication like the Onion used to be, where the Onion was writing in MLA style or they're
Right.
actually writing like a real journalist would write. But Novello had a publication called The Blade, which was published by National Lampoon, but it was a yearbook made up of all photographs of sheep. But
Yeah, I love the Laszlo letters, and I thought about including that instead of letters from a nut. I think the big difference is a lot of the Laszlo letters are to famous people instead of corporations.
Yeah.
And, like, for example, he would send a letter to Marco saying, "Law and order forever."
Mm-hmm.
Or Franco, like, "You're not just a general, you're truly a generalissimo. Keep it up."
Yeah.
Which I appreciate, but I think there is something about that element of, there is, like you said, there is some guy in the customer service department whose whole job is literally to deal with these nut jobs.
Oh yeah.
And you can tell by reading their responses that this is not like the craziest thing that they've ever read.
Yeah.
Or had to respond to, which is really frightening.
Absolutely.
Like what if this is like no sweat for you to respond to, what were the ones that really threw you off?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, Winfield, between bites, what is your fourth?
My fourth choice is a story that was told, a real life story that happened to one of the Beastie Boys, Ad Rock, about this ring that would magically reappear in his life. I guess back in 1992, Ad Rock, he'd kind of come off stage. They were kind of backstage, all the Beastie Boys, and this kind of giant weird guy, he said, with like big teeth and really long arms, just a super creep, like came up to him.
I love this guy.
He said, like, "Man, I want you to have my ring." They're in like San Francisco. He's like, "I want you to have this ring. It's my ring. Can you?" And like he tried to not accept it from him, and then he finally took it. So he's like, "Okay, I'll take it." He put it in his bag, and a couple weeks later, he's back home from tour, and he kind of puts it on the shelf. And then a week later, he's like on a train with MCA and why can't I think of the other guy's name?
Ad Rock, MCA, and
Mike D.
Mike D. Thank you.
So he's on the train with the other guys, and he reaches into his bag, and this ring is in there again. He's like, "What the hell is this? Why is it?" I put it on the shelf. And so he takes this ring and he's like screaming. He throws it down to the other side of the train. Flash forward 15 years to 2007, and the Beastie Boys are on tour in like Chile, and he reaches into like his backpack, and this ring is there again after 15 years, and like he like loses it. He like his brain melts. He starts screaming about it to the other guys, and how this is cursed, and how this ring has been followed. This is a ring, and I threw it away 15 years ago, and all this stuff. And he finally takes the ring, and he goes down to some fountain, throws it in the fountain. It's like, "Be gone, ring. You have plagued me for too long." And then like 2 weeks later, while still on tour, MCA comes up to him. He's like, "You know that ring? Well, 15 years ago, I found it on a train, and on the train after you threw it, you went into like the dining car, and I picked it up, and I take it with us whenever we're on tour, trying to find just the right time to hide it in your bag." And I guess he finally did it after 15 years, and just tortured his friend kind of innocently. I don't know how many, from the story, it seems like he only did it the one time 15 years later, but he was basically just applauding his now friend who's passed on, just his tenacity to keep some prank going for no reason. It probably just bemused himself year after year and tour after tour, to just like bring it with him just in case there's the right opportunity to drop it on him. And I just thought, what a good prank.
It is funny. Prank seems like a word that has a kind of like a cheapness to it, but like I think within the realm of pranking, the long con, the long payoff is something that is part of that definition. It sounds like that definitely was it.
Yeah, I love that. Like for 15 years, potentially, this guy had been like, this is the time. Nope,
Yeah.
not long enough. Not long enough. Next time.
I love it.
Next time we're in India or whatever we're doing, some Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I guess if you were in Sheboygan, where mystical things don't happen, that would probably not be as good as if you're traveling in an exotic locale.
In Nepal and
Nepal,
yeah.
You've been led to believe that somehow the Dalai Lama has cursed this ring.
Yeah. All right, wrap it up, rippity wrap.
Rippity wrap. My last choice is the Joe Schmo Show.
Oh, I don't know this.
You familiar with the Joe Schmo Show?
No, I've heard. Okay, I heard the name.
Yeah, it came on. The first season was in 2003, and it was essentially a entire fake reality TV show that was built around pranking one contestant. So they created a show called Rags to Riches or Lap of Luxury. That was supposed to be like everyone lives in a mansion. They've got all these challenges to do, and then they get voted out at the end of each episode. The winner is supposed to get $100,000. Except every person involved in all the contestants were actors who were playing roles. The host of the show was Ralph Garman, formerly of K-Rock here in Los Angeles, who was also in on the joke. Everyone in production obviously was in on the joke. And the whole idea was, how far can we push this guy? This average guy, his name's Matt Kennedy Gould. And how far could we push him with all of the different challenges and stunts that you have to do on these reality shows? The problem was he turned out that he was such a nice guy, like a genuinely nice guy, that everyone decided it basically became hard to actually prank him at some point because everyone felt so bad for him because he was like one of the episodes he had made this connection with the actor who was playing the archetype was the veteran, like the older, like he had served in Vietnam or something like that was his backstory. And when that character gets voted out, Matt Kennedy Gould starts just crying. He's just like super upset. He's like, I don't know if this is worth it for me to be doing the show I make these friends and then the friends leave. And the producers were like, wait, hold on a second. This isn't funny anymore. This is nice. We're putting this nice guy through hell. So they kind of had to rearrange the concept. They kind of had to rearrange it so it wasn't so much making fun of him anymore as, kind of making him the hero of this. One of the actresses was Kristen Wiig, who played a quack marriage counselor. They did a stunt where they're supposed to be doing like the sumo wrestling big suits, those things where you bounce into each other. He bounced into her a little too hard and knocked her to the ground, and she had to go to the hospital for a concussion. And he felt terrible about it. He had won some all-inclusive spa vacation, and when she got back from the hospital the next day, he gave her the trip because he felt so bad about it.
Wow.
Just a genuinely nice guy who like I said, the whole idea of this show was supposed to be to make fun of him. And just by the nature of just his own being such a good dude, forced them to change the whole concept of this prank show.
Wow.
And they wound up doing 3 seasons of it. The second season was based on a reality dating show. And I don't even remember what the third season was. I think it was supposed to be like a bounty hunter type show. Who was going to be the next great bounty hunter. The second season was pretty good. Third season kind of sucked. First season is fantastic, though.
It is interesting.
It's fascinating.
Examining why a good prank needs a good target.
And
somebody who is whatever good means in the reality of TV spectrum. It means somebody people enjoy probably torturing. But
somebody who they enjoy seeing bad things happen to them. A prank is a form of Schadenfreude.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
It looks like that third season that wasn't very good was like a reboot of the show 10 years later. So maybe they just...
Yeah, that's never a good sign whenever they do that. The people who did this also did the TV show Invasion Iowa, where they purported to film an entire sci-fi movie starring William Shatner in this small town in Iowa. And they got all the locals, as extras in the movie and just kind of everything that went along with this big time Hollywood production coming to this, small Iowa town. Also very good. So if you get a chance to check either of those two out, I would recommend it.
There was a buddy from Chicago talked about this kind of long running prank. I think it's Windy City Heat.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of a movie. Basically, a guy thought he was in a movie, and it was kind of just a big structured prank around this one person, Barry Caravello, I think. Yeah. So
yeah,
he was told he was in. Go ahead.
Jimmy Kimmel was involved with it, if I remember, and Adam Carolla, which is unfortunate. But hey, Jimmy Kimmel was involved with it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking right now. Bobcat Goldthwait directed it.
Oh yeah. So yeah, this guy thinks he's in a film noir drama, crime film, but it's really just a structured prank to kind of torture this guy. So it's so funny. I love it. So okay, dudes, this has been fun. The Mount Rushmore of Pranks. Happy April Fools, everybody. Let's go with the Hot Foot, just because that's a classic. It's in cartoons, it's in sports. And because it made me nostalgic for the early days of Bart Simpson and The Simpsons, the prank phone calls. Have you heard Shut Up Little Man? It was also kind of in that same time era where somebody recorded these two roommates in San Francisco just yelling at each other.
Oh yeah, I was introduced to that when I was working at the newspaper, actually.
Okay.
I was a newspaper writer, and I became obsessed with it, and my wife Sarah hates it.
Yeah.
And so I would play it in car rides, and she would just it was nails on chalkboard for her, but I just was fascinated. And every once in a while you'd come up with here's one that I hadn't heard before, and you could kind of trade it with people. And it was there's even a documentary about Shut Up Little Man that's on Netflix now. If you get a chance to watch that, it's pretty good.
Is it have like the guys kind of I seem like I've seen it, but I don't know. It's one of those things where they have people kind of reenacting these characters or something.
I think there were cartoon versions of the Shut Up Little Men guys.
Yeah. Okay, and Jerky Boys. I like that one. Did I say that? I like that one. And let's go Jerky and Beastie Boys.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, dudes, I have something to tell you. I'm starting my own offshoot podcast.
What?
Yeah, it's the Mount Rushmore podcast. It's about castles in Europe.
Okay.
And it's about those castles that are surrounded by a ring of water to help provide some local security. So I think it's going to be a competitor of this podcast. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Oh, God.
Jeffrey. Richard, he's not going to compete with our moat related podcast that we're starting.
Wait, now what? Oh.
Oh, gotcha. Damn.
Hook, line, and sinker. All right, dudes.
I have cancer, you guys.
Oh.
Just kidding. I don't have cancer. Wait, is that not a good prank?
What does that have to do with moats?
And moat cancer. I don't know.
Oh no, cancer right here. Right, cancer. You can't see me on this audio podcast as I'm pointing to my throat.
This has been the Mount Rushmore podcast.
God, what a bummer. Sorry.